Just came to your MSP world, and we just absorbed. We went to every possible meeting. At the end, we both were like on our way back going, oh my goodness, we got to do this.
The trail, the journey from being a reactive to a proactive company, coming from break fix to managed services, to be more specific, is something that a lot of companies in the IT channel do. Not everyone. Some people just go right into the deep end and start, their company as an MSP. But more likely than not, companies that are in managed services today or moving to managed services are coming from something else. And our guest is someone who has been a member of the MSP Alliance for over a decade, who has a lot of experience in his own company about how that transition from reactive break fix to proactive managed services, how it came about, what his battle scars look like. Maybe if he wants to show you some of them, be nice and I'll ask him. But I wanted to invite him onto the podcast to share his experience, because I think it's useful for other companies to hear this story, and more often than not, just to know that it's possible. It is very possible to do this transition, to do it successfully. So I'm very honored to have Mr. David Besse, partner of 415 Group, on the program. Welcome to the MSPZone, David.
Thanks, Charles. I'm very honored to be here.
Short story, because I know you've been a member for a very, very long time. Maybe you could start with just a brief overview of 415 Group. What do you guys do?
Sure. So 415 Group, we always say the 15 because it's actually a date. It's April 15th, tax day. We're an accounting firm also. So that's where the name comes from. And 415 is an accounting firm, and we're also an MSP. People think sometimes that's kind of weird, but if you think way back in the day, the first organizations to embrace small computing was accountants because of Lotus 1-2-3 and Zen Calc and all that old stuff. And so we turned it into a practice by helping our clients get their first computers and kind of morphed into it from there. And so I've been with the firm for almost 20 years. Have led the IT division. I'm not an accountant. If I do your taxes, we're both going to go to jail probably. So I only do IT. I'm an IT guy. And we were in the break fix model for quite some time. And that's how accountants, if there's one thing they know how to do, is bill by the hour. So we bill by the hour. And that's how life was. And somewhere along the line, about 11 years ago or so, I lost a bid, a proposal to a dental office, I think. They asked me to come in and quote, and back in the day when you did that, you just quote. I just guessed how many hours they'd need based on how many PCs they'd have. I just guessed, and it was $500-600 a month. I told them they'd probably end up spending, and somebody was quoting them something called a flat fee for like $3,000 a month. And I thought, oh, that's a joke. I'll win this. Who's going to pay $3,000 a month when they can spend $500 a month? And sure enough, I lost it. I was flabbergasted that who in the world in the right mind would pay $3,000 when they could only have to pay $500, or whatever the number was at the time. It was somewhere near.
Yeah.
That. Within a month or two, it happened again. I think this one might have been an existing client that was looking to upgrade. Same thing. And I lost again. I'm like, what is this managed service thing? Because I actually got a look at the proposal. Like, what is that? So I went out and started Googling what managed services is and how can I learn about it. And that's how MSP Alliance came into focus. And so I'm like, all right. So I grabbed, with the time we only had 5 people. So I grabbed the person I thought would be the most skeptical and took that person with me, because I figured if we're going to make a change, I lost twice here. I don't like to lose. If I'm going to make a change, I might as well take my biggest opponent with me. See if I can get them in. And so we just came to your MSP world, and we just absorbed. We went to every possible meeting, every every breakout we had, every lunch we had, and just started asking all the dumb questions that rookies are going to ask. And we made sure we broke up. And at the end, we both were like on our way back going, oh my goodness, we got to do this. And then we get back to the office and right away reactions hit. And, you're right back to the, reacting. We did nothing. So an entire year goes by. I'm about to share just how very unsmart I am. So a year goes by. So he's like, we need to revisit this. And I don't remember how many I had lost or not by that time, but we went back down and did it again. And did the exact same thing. Attended your conference, and we went through. We heard all the speakers, and they seemed so far out there ahead of me, and so much smarter than I was. Well, I'm just going to keep on learning. Came back,
but Dave, I got to accept you. Interrupt
Sure.
you. These were not. This is 2011, 12 ish. Is that right?
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
These were not. Correct me if I'm wrong. These were not technical challenges you were facing, were they? Or
No, they're philosophical. They're business model questions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to set the stage for the listeners out there.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And so it took me 3 times to go to your conference. That's how hard-headed I was. 3 times to say, okay, we've got to make this switch. And so, long story, I'd lost a client to an internal person. Another thing that you don't want to do. I lost a client to an internal person. They quit. She called me back and said, would I be willing to cover for them while they hired somebody? I said, no. Would you be willing to be my first MSP client? And she said, I explained the model to her after 3 different visits to your MSP world. She said, okay. And I used that contract, which was a $3,000 a month contract, that $36,000 to fund my first help desk person. And that's what got me going. And so at the time we were 5 employees, and now we have 35. And that's been 8 years. So, and the journey has been very, very informative, but it's significantly a mindset change more than it is a technology change. But that's where we are, and we're very grateful to MSP World for how they helped.
Well, I appreciate that. The backstory is I ran into Dave at the Enable Empower event just a couple weeks ago now, or last week in Frisco, Texas, and you came up to me at breakfast, and I recognized the name, but you gave me that story. You told me that story, and it was like, this is proof that it can happen, that it can be done. So thank you for letting me know that, because it's a powerful story. I'd like to go back to 2011, 2012 timeframe.
Sure.
So you're losing bids, and could you synthesize what were the customers or the prospects asking for? It wasn't just to be billed monthly, was it? I mean, there was something different that you weren't doing at that time that they wanted. Could you describe?
Yeah, and well, it truly is the concept of reactive versus proactive. It really is that concept. And there is a vast majority of businesses out there, and honestly higher level thinking businesses, that realize IT is not an expense, it's an asset. And so they're willing to embrace the idea of paying more to get more. And I had to embrace the idea that it's okay to ask for more, because it was a mindset of, when you react, break fix is a contest. Who can be the best ambulance driver? That's
a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a contest of how fast can you get to me. And on some days you win that contest because you had nothing going on that day, and the phone rings and you get out there within 20 minutes, and then now you've just taught your client that's how fast the reaction time is. And the next day they call, but they're third in line, and you got to wait a day, and now you just taught them that you quote unquote give bad service. So when I began to embrace the business model of proactive treatment and help desk and better service through higher prices, it was easy to sell. It really was. And it was for people to understand, we're going to do everything we possibly can to make you not call me. And by doing that, you're a happier environment and we're a happier company. It made all the difference in the world. So
so for the folks out there, maybe the younger folks, this is pre-pandemic. pandemic. This is
Oh, yeah.
pre-cyber. This is pre-ransomware. I mean, I'm sure it was going on back then, but it wasn't widespread like it is today.
Correct.
These were customers that were coming to you, or these are companies coming to you saying, I need management of this IT asset, not can you sell me a server or a desktop?
I would say, slight correction on that interpretation. I would say these were prospects, because if you think about it, all our clients in the break-fix model, that's what they embraced. They were okay with it. A lot of them didn't understand. Now, we're in a town where, it's a little bit of a merger between farm country and small city. But they were fine with the break-fix model. Frankly, we've flipped almost all our clients now. One of the things I'm sure we'll get into at the end is the clients that I serve now is a whole different maturity level and size client than I fixed in the break-fix days. But it was when anybody would come to me with, hey, we heard you have an IT department, we're interested in doing IT. The second I began to explain what a better model was the second I closed more deals. It was easier to close MSP than it is break-fix.
Not an uncommon thing to hear. I do want to, so I just ask you these questions as they come into my head. A common argument for why a break-fix company doesn't go into managed services full steam ahead. My customers want to see me. If I'm not there on site, they're not going to think that I'm doing anything. This was not something that or did that ever come up, that argument?
Oh, the techs actually, the four of us probably had that mindset. And sure, there are some businesses that think that way, but honestly, those are the businesses that are only wanting to pay the break-fix fees. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The clients that are willing to pay you tens of thousands of dollars a year, they just want the problem solved, and actually, they'd prefer not to have the problem at all. So, so if you bring the solution that's going to try to mitigate problems before they happen, or minimize them, and then have a solution in place that gets them better service than who can get the ambulance driver there the fastest, they're going to write the check for that, and they embrace the model immediately. It's us having to get over that hurdle more than it is the client.
So prospects, prospects get it. You don't get those deals because the prospect says you're not in a business model that we want to move into. You have maybe one or two existing customers that want it, but you don't do it. One of the common challenges we know has happened over the last 25 years is the economic friction that can come from, I've got a bucket of revenue coming in.
Yeah.
Does a change to managed services threaten that? Could you walk us through how that, especially as a CPA firm, it's not like you're unaware of the financial elements there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I was scared of that myself. And so, because when you do have even though it's unpredictable revenue coming in, because every month is different, because everything's billable by the hour, it's very unpredictable. It's still revenue, and so at first, when I embraced it, I would take both solutions to the client when I was being asked for, hey, here you got something, and I would walk in, I'd present the break-fix model, and I'd present the managed service model, and I honestly don't remember what the ratio was, but I began to notice who the clients were, which ones were accepting which ones, which type of client was accepting the managed model, and what type of client was accepting the break-fix model. Interesting.
Dare I say you were starting to build a profile of the type of organization went to which direction.
Yeah. And I went, you know what? I think I like these clients better than those clients. So I think I'm just going to start selling to that. And so it didn't take me long. I would say within 3 or 4 months, I said, that's it. I'm no longer selling break-fix. Now, I still had a whole bunch of break-fix revenue on the books. Back to your question. I still had a lot of clients willing to pay me by the hour, and that was it. But everybody knew was managed only. If you said no to me, then I'd say thank you very much, and maybe we'll cross our paths. But I continued to service the break-fix, and then I realized I'm still in the 911 hair on fire, how fast can I react to you thing, and so then we began an effort to convert those that were currently on the books to an MRR, managed a monthly recurring revenue model, to convert them to an MRR model. And we began to do that very consciously. And then eventually, over a couple of years, we converted all that over or transitioned them out. Yeah, go ahead.
David, the way you describe it, it seems so simple compared to all the horror stories I've heard over 3 decades of listening to a lot of VARs and break fix companies talk about why they can never do this. It sounds like you had 2 buckets. You had break fix and you had proactive managed services. And you filled up as the managed services bucket was filling up, you get to an inflection point where it's sustainable and you know that it can survive. And then is that the moment that you say, all right, everybody comes over? No whiffs and butts.
Yeah, that's a great way of asking it. I think the first year, again, I didn't bring this to the table. Maybe I didn't come as prepared as I should have. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think I had, I think we closed 4 or 5 deals in the first 6 or 7 months. The smallest one was the first one. I mean, people were like, sure, I'll take that. Sounds good. So when I had several $100,000 annually in agreements, I'm like, okay, this is working. This is going to work. And then I went back to existing clients, and there's a certain subset of the break fix people. That's how they think, and they're going to say no, thank you. But a good break fix client back in that day was maybe $6,000 to $8,000 a year is what you'd get out of them.
Sure.
A small managed service client contract is like twice that. So it's not like it's a risk. So to move to managed service, because you're going to get a much better contract. So what I did was I began to have a couple approaches to it. One was every time I would land a managed service contract, I would push out or force conversion a couple of the break fixes. So I would still grow the revenue, but I would either look to get rid of because we all know who they are. There's certain clients when the phone rings, nobody wants to answer it if they know that's who it is. Everybody's got those clients, especially in the break fix world. You don't want to answer the phone. They got to go. You start targeting the ones that bring all sorts of stress to your life and say it's time to move you up or move you out, kind of thing. And you don't say it like that to them, of course. Yeah. You talk about this great new exciting model you have, and here it is. Here's the price, knowing they're going to say no. But at least you offered it. So every client we offered to, but maybe a few, we showed them the price tag, knowing that the ones wouldn't take it, would be out. And then we began to move them out. But I think it took me about 3 years to go from all break fix to all managed services. And then we've never looked back. We will not do it. We will never take a client unless it's monthly recurring revenue.
So the first change, my words, not yours necessarily, you first had to prove out the economic model, and you did that when you started to get maybe a couple $100,000 per annum in managed services. It's proof of concept that, yes, there are customers like that who are willing to pay for that model, number one. Number two, you get to the point where you realize not only is it achievable, but now we have to, this is the question, I'm the hypothesis. Once the financial model had been proven, were there internal service delivery issues that you realized were associated with the break fix work compared to the service model for the proactive? Does that make sense? And how?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And here's what it is. Let's just take, I won't name names, but let's say we have a client who's going to pay us back then a $4,000 a month client, or $50,000 a year. $50,000, that's like 10 times what our good break fix clients are. I mean, they call you up and have a ticket request, and you got this one client down here at the doctor's office with 3 PCs that calls you up at the exact same time, the exact same day. Who are you going to take? Which tickets are you going to take first? We're all going to take the $50,000 a year client one first. So we began to realize there's a pecking order immediately forming in the barnyard. It's common sense. You're going to take care of the people who have committed to you much significant funds. You're going to take care of them. And we began to find ourselves in a position where now we're not offering the break fix people that same level of service we used to, because we used to be let me see how fast I can get to you, 911 hair on fire. So then it became obvious, if we want to be, I won't say ethical, that's not the right thing, but if we want to be fair to our clients, we're realizing we're treating the break fix as a secondary business model, and we're treating the MRR as the primary. We might as well embrace it.
Did you realize that that's very important? Did you realize that? I mean, separate from the prioritization of a managed services client spending more with you, did you realize that there was a lack of scalability with the break fix stuff compared to the managed services?
I don't know.
I asked that question only because there's a lot of break fix companies who bill monthly, and they think that I'm billing monthly, therefore I am doing something proactive, which, as you probably know, it's not. It doesn't make you an MSP.
There's a lot of people that call themselves managed MSPs that really all they are is monthly billers. You know, they're block of hours, but the mindset is still reactionary. It's still, I'm doing nothing until you throw up the bat signal in the sky, and then I'll get in the Batmobile and drive over and try to fix it for you. I mean, that's the only difference is, or maybe they're charging you $8 a month. They're putting antivirus on, you know, something like that. That's not proactive. You know, that's not managed services at all. And somewhere in there, we never did that. We went, because of your conference, sit at the tables and talk to people who've been there, done that. We knew we had to have a tool stack. We knew we had to have a service delivery model that was distinctively different than what break fix is. And that's, I think that's probably the primary, as I'm looking back now, way for us to differentiate why that's not scalable, because the break fix people simply want to pay by the hour and pay for nothing else. They're going to shop you on Amazon on what price you're going to bring them. You know, they're going to question the quarter hour bill that you sent them. They're going to look at the time and say, well, you're here for an hour and a half. What's the bill for 2? Why am I paying for drive time? You're going to spend all that energy and emotion on all that stuff. You're not doing that in the managed service model. You're just focused on the client.
I love it. All right. Retrospection time. Is there anything that you would do differently in that business model change from reactive to managed services? Anything that you, looking back on that, what you just do differently, do better? Anything that jumps to mind?
Well, the most glaring one would be to, after your first conference, to embrace the managed service model and get started 2 years earlier. But apparently I'm rather thick-headed and getting older, and it took me 3 times to figure this out. That'd be the first one. The second one would be to realize that not all revenue is good revenue. And therefore the break fix model, I would have transitioned quicker, I think, out of the break fix as fast as I could. I'm thinking of multiple things. Another one is to realize that metrics matter. And so efficiency matters. You know, at my best days in break fix, because accountants, we know how to crunch numbers, 50% utilization was as good as I was getting when it comes to billable time. If you get 50% utilization out of your techs, that was pretty good. When I first broke in MSP world and I was hearing 70% utilizations and 80% utilizations, I thought, are you kidding me? There's no way you can get that. Yes, you can. And realize and start to track my numbers earlier on in MSP, I think I would have been better and more effective if I had embraced metrics sooner. But those are things that just come to the top of my mind now. I'm sure there's 10 others.
So, I mean, but look, you didn't, I mean, like many other companies, you don't know, and every jurisdiction, every geography is slightly different, right? People are at different levels of their evolution in terms of this type of technology and its management. So, but you got to a point where you realized, I can do it, and you broke through. I mean, and that's the thing that I hope everybody out there who is in your spot where you guys were, 415 Group, 10, 11, 12 years ago, there's a lot of companies still there where you were. I mean, what advice would you tell them? I mean, just tell them to get started now and that it's achievable, it's possible.
Sure, go to MSP world and sit down and talk to everybody at the table and find out. But it's a mindset. It really is. And the mindset you have is that it's here's another one that's very common is that sometimes there's an ethical push here that I've heard many times. It's not ethical to charge somebody unless you're doing work for them. So if it's, if you're charging, I'm making a number up, $100 an hour, you need to give $100 an hour worth of value. It's not fair to charge $500 if you're only going to give them $100 worth of value. And so they have this mindset of, I need to bill by the hour because that's the ethical way to do it. And, there's that mindset. I would say that's absolutely not true, that the MSP embracing MRR model, the value is the peace of mind and the proactiveness you're bringing to them. They're willing to pay for that. It's not, not everything is transactional. That, I pay monthly monthly for my car insurance. I don't use it, but it's providing me value and peace of mind. If you bring to them a stable network and all the value that you're and a fast reactionary and help desk and tools and security, there's value in there that's not transactional. It's not an ethical issue, but I've heard that multiple times from people who say, I don't think that's right.
Even today,
even today.
Interesting.
Matter of fact, I heard it at Empower conference. So yeah, there is that mindset, and so that's part of it. The other part of it is simply just the mindset of, well, you brought one up. I forgot about that. It's been so long about that. My customers want to see me. Yeah. Actually, the CEO doesn't want to see you. The CEO knows if he's seeing you, something's wrong. He'd rather not see you and have or she have the network running fine. They would rather you brought to them a solution that's more strategic for them and gets them to that next level than is only putting out their fires. When you've got a fire, you want to see the fireman, but you don't want to see him. But you'd rather not have the fire.
The legacy break fix customers that you kept and you transitioned to managed services, how did they respond after the move into managed services? Any anecdotal information you can give?
Multiple ones have said this is so much better, because we have a help desk. That's one of the big deals about managed services. Is, I would tell you, one of the engines that drives a train is a help desk. And the idea that, because in the break fix model, again, they're used to, I used to be somebody's IT person, and they would just reach out to me.
Yeah.
Well, now we're like, no. Reach out to the help desk, because they're sitting there, they have nothing else. They're waiting on you. I might be busy for the next day. And, well, first of all, no one's ever said, we're done, thank you. I mean, we don't lose clients. It's a very sticky model. We don't lose clients. We have multiple times heard, yes, I'm in. Now, several of them, it took a little bit of convincing, because there were several clients we really wanted to keep them. We knew it was right for them, but it was sticker shock to tell them, well, now it's going to be $4,000 a month. You were $600 a month roughly in break fix. That's sticker shock.
Yeah.
So you have to have, sometimes you have to have a runway for them, and we would give out a runway. We'd say, okay, here's where we want you to be in 2 years or 3 years. If you sign for this, give me a 3-year deal, sign for this. Next year, I'm going to bump you to this, and next year you'll be at that fee. Then it was easier for them to swallow, and they would go, all right, I'll give that a try.
So it was it was purely budgeting, or mainly budgeting for that type of customer.
And they had to get over it too, because they've been used to writing a check for $600 this month, $1,200 next month, $200 the next month. They were used to that, and they're like, what, a flat fee makes sense to me, but that's a big number. Like, yep, but here's all things you're going to do, because you're no longer paying for antivirus in a separate check. You're no longer paying for backups in a separate check. You're no longer paying for maintenance. It's all included. The vast majority, the people that get it are the ones you want to be your client anyways.
Yeah.
People who don't get it are the ones that are continually being the break fix world.
What percent are you I know they still exist, but are there break fix company customers out there still knocking on your door? And if so, what's your response to them?
Now it's kind of the other way. We're big enough now in town that everybody kind of knows who we are. And the conversation usually starts out with, I'm not sure if we're big enough for you. That's usually how it starts out.
Is that a perception that to be a managed services customer, you have to be big?
I don't know, but it definitely comes up. That's a great question. Definitely comes up. And we do have a size. We do have a target profile now. that we won't take unless you meet. But when we first started, honestly, there, and we still have them. We didn't kick anybody out that way. But I would take MRR. To me was MRR. If it was 5 PCs, I'm taking it. And I would say for those getting started, that's exactly what you should do. And learn your way. Eventually, you'll find that if you get to a certain size, that those 5 you're probably not as good service them as you used to be. But when you're starting out, that's wonderful to get a 5. That's wonderful. So take it. So now the answers are different only because we have a size thing. But at the beginning, we were smaller. And because of where we are, there's still a lot of companies around here that still are break fix. And so, I do get that a lot. But I explain to them, here's our model. Here's what we do. If you don't like it, I've got a name for you. Because there's a guy I refer to now that's break fix. He loves it. I just send him all the stuff. I did it today. This morning it happened to me today. There's a landscape guy with 3 PCs. I sent him right over to my guy.
Okay. So I could understand why a small shop like that would do that. So I had a question on the tip of my tongue. The client that comes, the provider that says, I want to keep 1 foot in each boat. I know you probably know them yourself in your circle of colleagues. I know a lot of them who they know that their managed services practice is the jewel of their company, but they have enough of a base in the break fix bucket that they don't want to disrupt. And they feel like they can coexist. How would you respond to that type of scenario?
My guess is they feel that way because they're afraid of the revenue loss. Probably not because they're so enamored with the break fix model. My guess is it's strictly a revenue question, or a significantly big portion of that is. And I would tell you, from my worldview, having lived through it, you ever heard the expression, y'all want to be rowing, you all want to row in the same direction? You want everybody in the boat rowing in the same direction, right?
Yeah.
If you think of that in a business model, the break fix people are throwing anchors on you. They're while you're trying to progress and move, they're still slowing you down, and it's really hard to see it because they're still writing you checks, they're still calling you, and you still get to bill them by the hour. But there's so much loss in that. Your guys have a tendency to not want to bill them for all the time because you're in that break fix mentality and they're in that break fix mentality. So your guys will have your team, and I say guys, I shouldn't say that. Your team has a potential to take a 2-hour service call and make it an hour and a half or an hour and 45 and maybe round down the drive time, or maybe you're not even billing for the drive time. And then you're going to want to mentally, you're going to want to sell them the cheapest PC you can that they're going to buy instead of selling them the right PC that lasts them another year and a half and doesn't cause you issues 2 years from now because it's slow and creates tickets. And what happens is there's all these anchors that are being thrown while you're trying to row the boat because in the MSP world, you're going to them and saying, here's the tech stack and here's why you want to do it. Here's the strategic, because you're trying to get to this, and we're going to help you by and you're not driving there because you have a help desk who's just going to dial in, solve the problem, and hang up real quick, as opposed to your team's driving out there, and then you're losing time on the drive, and then they're spending all this time quoting, trying to figure out what the cheapest solution is. You're losing money on the break fix. You just don't know it.
A few final questions. This has been really illuminating, and I hope that those of you who are out there in the audience listening, watching this, take note of David's story, because it's an important one. And it, as I said, it shows that it can be done. This journey to managed services can be successful. Today, I think the stakes are infinitely higher. You not only have the legacy business model, economic benefits of becoming a managed services customer that we all know, but you have on top of this layer of huge risk.
Yeah.
Cyber.
Yep.
Does it change anything in terms of your equation for recommending or counseling a break fix company into managed services, adding cyber into the equation today? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's a long discussion on that one.
I know.
So
it's the second episode, so maybe you can come back. Right?
Yeah. So the break fix model. we're going to sell you some kind of cheap antivirus or affordable antivirus, and it's probably not the best because you think it's good enough, and you're not going to protect them very well. You're not going to do any training for them. You're not going to do phishing email campaigns. Higher odds they're clicking on something than your managed. So they click on something, down goes their data. Now it's 911. Oh, by the way, because you're not a managed service provider, you haven't been checking the backups to see if the backups have been going off. Now you get there and find out the backups have been deleted by the ransomware team that got in there. Now you really got a problem. And oh, by the way, now you're trying to figure out if you can bill them for it, and you're going to put in 60 hours and bill them for 30 because you feel guilty for not billing them for 60. So once again, the break fix people cost you all sorts of money because you spent 60 hours of time. In the managed service model, you're going to do everything you possibly can to put tools on there proactively so that you never get that phone call. And therefore, your team is going to be more efficient because you're not dealing with the ransomware event. You're dealing with clients who have real issues, and you're not being totally hijacked, because when somebody gets ransomware, they're going to hijack the whole organization, because it's going to take more than one person to figure all this out. Whether you're going and having to decrypt PCs or figure out how to restore, and it's not working, and now you're trying to get some kind of RAID recovery involved. I mean, all sorts of horrible things are going on when that happens. The break fix mentality will be much more susceptible to getting hit and having the whole organization hijacked for a very long period of time than the MSP. Not that MSPs don't get ransomware. I mean, we all have to deal with it at some point in time, but your odds go way down, and they're going to be looking to you to, how did this happen? How did you, even if you're in a break fix world, they still view you as the IT security expert, even though security is a whole different field. They still think you're the security expert, and they think you gave them the best protection. Even when you sold them the lowest protection, they still think you did it. So they're going to want to blame you for it. So you might as well embrace it and go to MSP.
That's a good argument. I like it. David Besse, 415 Group. I first of all, thank you very much for coming up to me in Frisco, and great to see you again. And next time we'll crack some Weller. We'll do a Weller MSPZone episode, and we'll talk about something equally as cool as this. This is really important stuff, and you show, I hope, a lot of people that there's a path towards success in managed services, and I hope you take David's words to heart and see that path and follow it, because it is proven. Others have done it, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I don't think my story is probably any different than thousands of others. So I appreciate the fact that you asked me, but it's very doable. And if there's any way I can help somebody along the way, I'm happy to do it to give back. So.
And for we do have some end users that I'm sure crop up into the channel. You guys are based in where are you at?
We're in Canton, Ohio.
So if you're a customer in Canton, Ohio, and you want a MSP, check out 415 Group.
Absolutely. Thanks, Charles.
David Besse, partner, 415 Group. Appreciate it. Stay safe. Until next time.